3 years. Here's Popovic back in the net, fights off the forecheck from number 7, Michael Zigomanis, as Sheldon Keefe will take it right wing. Sheldon Keefe working to the net, shot right on as Cruickshank looking for the rebound, and Sheldon Keefe just slugged Jonathan Schill. Sheldon Keefe hit him with a right, and all hell is broken out now as well. They've restored order. And Nathan Tennant takes a shot at Cation, and Moriarity involved, and Moriarity goes after the goalie, Cruickshank. Now, Fransen is wheeling on Moriarity. Cava's in there as well.
We've got a melee going on here.
This has turned into a bit of a Donnybrook, and I don't know what started it, but Corupe is being dragged by Jonathan Schill. You can see Corupe hanging on to Jonathan Schill in the crease area. They've got several scuffles going on. Cation and Nathan Tennant are swinging away to the left of the net. We have Cruickshank back in the net with Gerald Moriarity. Here's the main bout now, Cation and Nathan Tennant.
Got to give this one to Shawn Cation. He's already dinged him 3 times.
Yeah, they're swinging freely.
He's dinged him 3 times on the uppercuts and not hurt his hand on the visor. I'll tell you where that all stemmed from. That all stemmed from.
Well, it's still going, Glenn. Moriarity and Cruickshank. Cruickshank took another run at Gerald Moriarity. So let's wait for things to cool down a bit. And Cruickshank is trying to get the left free. A couple of his players have more to help. Michael Zigomanis and Cava squared off. Let's look back to the net. There's 2 of them on. Popovic and Corupe have Jonathan Schill tied up, and now Moriarity and Cruickshank have been separated, and Cava is being basically shoved into the penalty box. Moriarty's in the box now. Cava's in the box. Barnes and Guff were already there. Now they're bringing Cation to the box. Well, now we'll take a look at how it started.
I truly believe that started with a chop at center ice on Sheldon Keefe from the Ottawa, or from the Kingston player.
There's a shot on goal. We see Moriarty going to the net. Moriarty going forward.
Yeah.
Keefe is down.
Keefe is down. And if you see here, that's the player that he struck.
He pounded Jonathan Schill. We're not sure why, and now they're going at it in the
penalty box.
Gerald Moriarty is incensed. He just threw something at number 5, Shawn Griffin, and Griffin has lost it. Griffin is trying to climb over the glass. The Garden security has intervened, and they're holding Shawn Griffin in the penalty box. There's a fan there trying to restore order as well. The players are well separated, so nothing likely to come of this, but that is a heated exchange. Now, Sheldon Keefe clearly took exception to something. It's not like Sheldon Keefe to throw a punch like that.
No, I'm telling you that all step, you could hear the chop at center ice when he was coming down the ice. The Kingston player completely attacked. And here we see a Donnybrook going down in the penalty box area. Yeah, we've got security, we've got ushers trying to keep the fans away.
Well,
Chris Cava getting talked to from Reg Quinn.
Yeah,
settle
Reg Quinn,
down.
the president of the team, has intervened.
And the best thing for the referee to do at this point, with 5 minutes and 59 seconds to go, would be to just call all of these players that are involved in this Donnybrook, send them to the bench for the rest of the game. It's a 6-2 game. If they're going to be offsetting penalties at 5 minutes apiece anyway, best thing for the referee to do is say, hey, buddy, go to your dressing rooms and you come on out and watch the last couple minutes once you're showered up.
Well, I'm sure the referee will get this sorted out. Now, let's just get clear on the OHL rules here. First fight on the ice is a 5-minute major, but any subsequent fights on the same stoppage result in automatic game misconducts and 2-game suspension.
That's correct.
That's what we'll have to keep an eye out for here. If any of these players are deemed to have participated in second fight on the ice, and I'm sure many will be, they are looking at 2 games. Now, Gerald Moriarity, maybe, it's just not clear what was the first fight. The ref will have to determine what was the first fight, and anybody else, any other fight following that, the participants will pay a heavy penalties. We see Gerald Moriarty being walked out and escorted into the majors dressing room. Now, I guess what we got to get clear on here is what got everybody so upset. Now, clearly Sheldon Keefe was very incensed. He was down on his knees in the crease, and he took a right and threw a very hard punch at Jonathan Schill. Clearly he had a reason. What do you think the reason was?
I think the reason was he got chopped with a heavy slash in around the center ice mark going down to the other end. And, the referee had already called the penalty, so maybe Sheldon shouldn't have maybe acted the way he did, because they had a power play opportunity right there. The referee had his hand up. He was going to call the penalty, but when the play stopped and he gave the Kingston player the shot in the head, I think the goaltender then took liberty upon Sheldon Keefe, which got Moriarity all upset. And I think if I was going to call the penalties, I'd say that the original slash has to be called. I would think that the next penalty needs to be called would be Sheldon Keefe's roughing penalty. He never took the gloves off, so I can't really see how they call him a fighting. But then from then on, it was from then on, you'd have to look at Chris Cava and Moriarity as they had their part in a bit of a brawl.
All right, we'll let the officials sort this out. Let's take a break and go downstairs to Mike DeJean.
Thanks very much, guys. Well, they'll be taking a few minutes to sort out all of those penalties. Let's take a look at the scoring summary so far in tonight's contest, this afternoon's contest, in fact, which the Majors now lead by a score of 6-2 with about 5.5 minutes to go in the final period. Going back to the opening period, it was Shawn Cation with his first of the game, his fourth of the season from Keefe and Popovic, a power play goal at the 10:03 mark. 1-0 Majors. Popovic then scored his second goal of the year to make it 2-0 from Jason Pinizzato at 16:38. Kingston got back on the board. Cruickshank from Ormond at the 17:22 mark, making it 2-1 after one. The Majors increasing their lead in the second period. Kenny Corupe getting that goal, his 8th of the year from Keefe and Cation. Another power play marker for the Majors. They are just awesome on the power play. Maybe the Leafs should get some tips from them. 9:26 of the second, followed by Ryan Barnes unassisted, although that goal may go to Mark Popovic. We looked at the tape. It could be going either way. Didn't matter. It made it 4-2 at that point, 4-1 at that point for the Majors. Then the third period, Jamie Young got one back for the Kingston Frontenacs from Price and Griffin on the power play at 4:10, followed by Shawn Cation's 5th of the year from Keefe and Cannon at 7:08. And then Brent Mulder's first as a Major from Corupe and Pinizzato at 12:21. So the Majors leading at 6-2. They are on their way to their third straight win in 3 days. Let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard in Ontario Hockey League action this afternoon. Several games along with this one. Guelph leading Plymouth. There's a surprise. 3-1 for the Storm in the third period. A battle of two of the best teams in the league. A final from North Bay. The Kitchener Rangers losing again 5-2. Peterborough leading Sudbury, or beat Sudbury in fact. It's a final 4-3 for the Petes. Sault Ste. Marie leading the Battalion 1-0 in the third period. Tonight's contest, we have 4 more games in the OHL this evening, including 3 more this evening. In fact, Owen Sound playing at Barrie. That's a 6 o'clock start. Sarnia traveling to Oshawa. And the Ice Dogs still looking for their second win of the year, taking on the always tough Ottawa 67s. Our next TV game here involving the St. Michael's Majors will in fact emanate out of the nation's capital. The Ottawa 67s taking on the Majors Friday, November 27th, a 7:30 face-off from Ottawa. Should be quite a barn burner from the nation's capital. And let's take a look at some of the Majors' next few games. Saturday the 28th, 1 o'clock right here at Maple Leaf Gardens against the Colts, followed by that game in Ottawa next Friday. Then Sunday, November 29th, 1:30 against the Ice Dogs once again. And then at Mississauga, Wednesday, December 2nd, a 7:30 start from the new Hershey Center. Well, the St. Michael's Majors trying to hang on for their third consecutive victory. They lead at 6-2 over the Kingston Frontenacs. Let's go back upstairs to Tim Haffey and Glenn Lowes.
Thanks, Mike, for that update. Glenn and I continuing to monitor the ice as the officials continue to try and sort out the penalty situation. You see the official conversing with the off-ice official at the penalty box. Mark Napier has made his way to the penalty box area as well, the general manager of the team monitoring this situation. We see Mark Napier now, and it's a bit of a distressing situation for the Majors. It just seems, Glenn, where there's Sheldon Keefe, there's sparks, there's fire. He's a feisty kind of guy, and he threw that punch, and that pretty well got the whole thing going, at least the Donnybrook part of it, but clearly something precipitated it. And I now see Sheldon Keefe has been escorted off the ice. One of the Garden's senior ushers, in fact, the one that looks after the Majors dressing room, has escorted Keefe off the ice, and they really didn't even let Keefe back on the ice. They took him out of the penalty box and escorted him into the corridor adjacent to the penalty box, and they're going to work him around back to the dressing room through the back route rather than letting him back on the ice.
Well, the only thing that I can think of, that the reason they gave him that was maybe an instigator situation. One of the things that I do see, you see Cruickshank on your screen. If I'm a referee, he's out of the game. He got into a fight there, and goalie or no goalie, put the other netminder in because he's involved in the whole fracas himself. So Chris Cava there over the bench, waiting there patiently as the referees try to sort out what sort of penalties to give to each team.
Well, the first punch that I saw was Sheldon Keefe, so if you consider that the start of a fight, anything subsequent would be second fight on the same stoppage. Now, what we'll have to, the referee will have to establish is what indeed was that first fight. And as we've explained, any other fights that... Okay, let's try and figure out what happened. Here's Keefe.
Here's the hack right here.
All right, now that's Nathan Tennant. Tennant stands him up. Let's see what happens. Down goes Keefe, so Keefe takes exception to that. Now there's Schill with Keefe.
Schill with the cross check.
Now we see Keefe punch. There's the punch on Jonathan Schill.
but the gloves were on, and in my mind, I don't think a fight deems to be a fight until the gloves are dropped. Am I right?
That may be a roughing. Keefe is definitely guilty of roughing there, but we saw that both Tennant and Schill had tied him up. Not clear as to whether either of them really used the stick or slashed or what exactly they did.
Well, I don't think the replay didn't catch it enough because I did see the referee's arm go up after I heard the big whap that comes off of a chop that was on Sheldon Keefe.
Well, that's significant. You saw a penalty called.
You saw a penalty called. It was a delayed penalty that happened around the red line. The Majors brought the puck in, controlled the play in the end, and once the puck was stopped, the referee was going to take the penalized Kingston player off. But Sheldon Keefe took exception, as we said, and decided to punish him himself.
Well, we saw a penalty box brawl. We haven't seen that in Maple Leaf Gardens this year. The situation with Sault Ste. Marie was close. Nick Jones was certainly very belligerent in the penalty box that night, but this was a lot more of a penalty box brawl. The Kingston Frontenacs, oddly enough, got into trouble for a penalty box brawl with the London Knights earlier this year, in which Walker MacDonald came off the bench. Now, producer Carrie B tells us that we have found the hack. We'll go to the tape.
And it's Schill. It's Schill. Watch this. Watch this. You can hear it right across the stadium, too. Right there. You can hear that, and he took exception to that.
Well, there's a definite hack attempt there. So that's a good replay. That takes it further back. We're getting closer to the history of this melee. I think the trick is we want to go back and investigate the root cause. We're getting closer in our investigation. So we see Keefe being hacked at as he started the rush. We saw Nathan Tennant hacking at him further into the Kingston zone. Schill got another piece of him. And Keefe finally just said enough is enough and swung the glove. But the situation with the Majors, this is where it gets delicate. Any time Sheldon Keefe gets into any kind of trouble, it's like there's this potential for a brush fire type brawl. The others all jump in, and you get this sort of situation. It's very similar to what happened against the Sault Greyhounds, as Mike Futa and Mark Napier have firmly established, and tape backs them up. Some thought that accused Keefe of viciously slashing Tim Zafiris, and Keefe most certainly did slash him, but there was an elbow before that precipitated the slash.
Yeah, it's the old rule of thumb. Anytime you've got a player that's that significant as Sheldon Keefe, you have to make sure you protect your player at all costs. He's a leading goal scorer, not only on this Majors team, one of the leading scorers in the whole league. And you've got to protect your valuable players that are going to put points up on the board for you. And you definitely don't want them in the penalty box. Announcer Bob Komsic going through the penalties, and he's dedicating, or he's mentioning the Majors penalties and the Frontenacs penalties, and there seems to be some misconducts coming out of the announcements as well. Look at our clock down here, Maple Leaf Gardens. The amount of penalties I think that he's going to call. I don't know if we have enough room on the screen to put them all up. Now you were Tim. You're taking note there on who got what and who was penalized for what. We're going to slowly take you through that as we were writing down vigorously as Bob Komsic was announcing the penalties. And I'm sure that this game's going to be back under play very shortly. The penalty box has been cleared, so I think the suggestion that I made earlier in getting the players away from the penalty box and maybe to their respective rooms is something that referee Mark Hicks has decided to do. The referee's still trying to sort out exactly where we're going to go from here.
All right, Zoe Lutzky and I have been comparing notes on the penalty situation now. Aaron Fransen, 5 minutes fighting, 10-minute misconduct. Jonathan Schill did indeed get tagged for slashing, 2 minutes slashing, 10-minute misconduct. We have a 10-minute gross misconduct also leveled against Jonathan Schill, so he gets 22 minutes, and the goalie Curtis Cruickshank 5 minutes for fighting. Gerald Moriarity with the 5 fighting, 10-minute misconduct, and he gets the bonus 10-minute gross misconduct as well. So both Schill and Moriarity getting gross misconduct. Sheldon Keefe 5 fighting and a game misconduct, and Shawn Cation 5 fighting. But also of interest, Walker MacDonald is indirectly responsible for the big brawl in the penalty box. He is not dressed, and Zoe Lutzky, our statistician, has just returned from the penalty box area, and her information gathered from witnesses is that Walker MacDonald interjected into the brawl, insinuated himself into it, not even participating in this game. And that's what at least partially started all the roughhousing in the penalty box as the majors responded predictably.
Understandably, you got a player that's not dressed, and he's stirring up the pot down in the penalty box. No one's happy about that. It'll be interesting to see what sort of rule or what sort of penalty that the OHL will come down on when they review this.
So Reg Quinn, the president of the team,
Mike Futa, not at all happy with those penalties. No. I think he's got to be the most upset about the penalty handed down to Sheldon Keefe. The game misconduct. I didn't see how a game misconduct could be given to Sheldon Keefe. Maybe at the most a 10-minute misconduct, but certainly not a game misconduct for throwing a punch with a glove on.
Well, they may have deemed Sheldon Keefe is showing a 5-minute major on the board, and Jonathan Schill has incurred a 2-minute minor. That's the slash. So those are the penalties that are going to impact the power play situation. So the majors come out of this with one extra major. So Kingston gains on the board. They will have a 3-minute power play. The majors penalty is a major, so when the 2-minute Kingston part is up, the Frontenacs will have 3 minutes in which they will be able to score at will, should they be able to score. But it's hard. The game misconduct, if Sheldon Keefe is considered to be a second fight on the ice, that would be a game misconduct, but even more dire from a major's point of view. If he did incur a game misconduct for second fight on the ice, he'll look at the 2-game suspension as well. Yeah,
I'm not sure how that's gonna look. The only thing I can think of is that they thought he was the instrumental in the start of the fight. We see the shots on goal once again. Toronto dominating the shots on goal with 47 and 35 for Kingston.
Well, Reg Quinn apparently says that Shawn Griffin started this with a slash to Sheldon Keefe. Reg Quinn talking to our Zoe Ludsky. We saw Jonathan Schill was called to the slash. Griffin was not penalized for slashing. Did Griffin get a slash? No.
The penalty box on the Kingston Frontenacs side is quite full, and